What is up, Internet world, and welcome back to the channel. Today I bring you the 2022 Volvo XC60. First observation of the XC60 is when you start it, it is silent. It's like it is an electric car. Now there is an electric component to it, but let's try this. 295 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque with an 8-speed transmission, turbocharged and supercharged. So smooth. The thing I notice is it doesn't feel or sound like a 4-cylinder. It feels like a 6, but it's a 4. That's cool. I like that. I like that it gives me that feeling of a 6, especially initially off the line. I find 4s are a bit sluggish, especially like an Audi Q5, an example, is you know it's a 4. It screams, it's got that like delay right off the bat. This thing doesn't have it. It's nice. As for suspension, it is fairly soft. It's not firm, which makes sense because it's got air suspension. How's the handling? Well, it handles pretty good. I wouldn't say it's stellar. I would say it's a little bit sloppier than an Audi Q5. I think the Audi Q5 is more direct. However, the Audi Q5 is definitely bumpier. This is smoother. I don't feel the bumps. I know this is a bumpy road and it just glides over it very, very well. And I think somebody that's looking at something like this will want something that's smoother and give you that sporty look, but they don't really want their back to be shot, especially in these really comfortable seats. On the throttle, bit of a delay there. So you are in a heavy space when it comes to competition, Mr. XC60. You've got the BMW X3, you've got the Audi Q5, and pretty much every other midsize crossover. So you have tried to change the game by offering Google as your main platform inside. You even threw in some crystal, you changed the front end a little bit, and you're saying, hey, look at me, I'm a new Volvo. You have a 4-cylinder 2-liter motor that is turbocharged and supercharged. However, you've smartened up a bit because you've dropped the T5 and T6 powertrains for the new B5 and B6, which means instead of using a mechanical supercharger, you've changed it up and realized electric is the way to go because that eliminates any mechanical losses, and yes, it smoothens out the power for us. So what we have here today is the B6 model, which is exactly in the middle because the one above it is the T8 powertrain, and that sets 2 electric motors to give it a horsepower of 455 horsepower, which is monstrous. So let's just deal with the 295. It's this initial feel that I really like. With the mild hybrid powertrain, by having that electronic supercharger, you get this. So it just boosts faster. Yeah, it's just definitely a lot more instant. I can tell that there's no losses. Usually these things have delays, but it's good. It's good. Well, I opened the hood, and I think you gotta be really tall to close this thing, because Shody is not tall. Crazy. So for 2022, they have facelifted the front end, including this front bumper to make it sharper and more aggressive. This is more like a AMG front grille, if you ask me. It's big, bold, and definitely not what you think about when you see Volvo. Now I want to talk about these headlights for a minute, only because this has the world's widest, craziest turning headlights. When I turn, this thing is basically like breaking your neck. It does one of these things. So moving along the side here, I like this XC60 because Volvo knows a thing or two about wagons. You see, they want to make it look like a car. SUVs sell, so they're like, hey, this is an SUV, but the front of this thing looks like a car, and the back of it looks like a wagon. And the middle, well, hey, checks the box of an SUV. If you're wondering what type of size tires you can get and rims, you get them in 18s, 19s, 20s, and if you get the big boy Polestar, you get them in 21s. So yes, this Volvo does have air suspension, and that makes it softer. The damping is nice and smooth and butter. Now, Volvo doesn't care about fancy lights, as you will see here. They are obviously lights, but they're not fancy. They don't do sort of waves and jumps and all kinds of cool stuff because their focus is on EV and making this as conscious as possible. Yes, this is a gas-powered car with a small electric EV portion. So where are the exhausts? Because they're not there. Yes, in 2025, half of Volvo's products will be electric, and that is the Polestar Connect, you see? Even the back has this big window with this monster old school brake light. That is not new school, that is old school. But people who buy Volvos don't care about that stuff. But they should care about towing, right? Because this thing only tows 3,500 pounds, which at this size should tow at least 4,000 or 4,400. So as you open up the power tailgate in your XC60, you will notice you have 2 nitrous bottles in the back, just in case you run into a street racer. But in plain sight, you have the exact same dimensions as you do in the Range Rover Velar. You have 41 inches as far as depth and 44 inches as far as width. The only unfortunate part is you do not have any handles to push down the seats. You actually have to do them from opening the side door. Volvo, teachers, come on. Back seat of the XC60. Now, I've always remembered Volvo having the best seats. No matter what year of Volvo you got in the seat and you're like, these are really good seats, and this is no different. Can't wait to get in the front to show you that. As far as fit and finish in here, these seats and quality is really nice. There are 2 cup holders right there, nice and big. You do have a pass-through there. And there's a change. They've changed to USB-Cs now. There's 2 USB-Cs hiding down here instead of USBs. It has a nice big panoramic sunroof. So for all you audiophiles, you get 10 speakers standard on any XC60. If you want to level up to the Bone Thugs and Harmony version with 14 speakers, you can. But if you got big moolah, you can buy 15 speakers, Harman Kardon. Now, as far as my seating position goes, you guys can see how much room I have. I have probably about 5.5, 6 fingers of headroom. Legroom is plenty. I like how they've rounded out these front seats to give me extra legroom, although there's more than enough. I see that these seats are a little bit skinnier, so I have more visual room. I can see a lot on the left side. I can see a lot on the right side. So sitting back here doesn't make me feel claustrophobic at all. I do have an LCD display that I can adjust how much fan speed and, of course, heated seats side to side. There is a little bit of storage underneath both sides. These seats do not slide backwards and forwards, but they are really nice and comfortable. That's it. To the front. Front seat of the XC60. Not bad sounding door. Seats are exactly what I pictured it be. Nice and comfortable and solid and massagey. Well, they have this weird monstrous leg extension that sort of flares out and it's fully adjustable. You can extend your leg if you have long legs. Unfortunately, I don't have those, so I don't use it. Now, the other thing I noticed is because it's freezing outside, I put the heated steering wheel on and it does a great job and it heats all the way around in the exact same temperature. You know, some cars, when you hold the top, it's nice and warm, and you hold the sides, it's kind of cool, and then lower, it's kind of warm. It has different temperatures. Well, not this guy. This thing heats all the way through. Now, how does this interior look? It looks very upscale, really good quality materials they've used, and they have this nice crystal piece that the designers say it resembles Sweden, because this is built in Sweden, and that little shifter proves it. It says Orifos on it. No idea, because I ain't Swedish. So there's a very small amount of physical hard buttons in this XC60. Obviously you have your door switches and your memory seat, and then a few buttons here to toggle backwards and forwards for your song and a rotary dial for your volume. But other than that, there's no buttons. Everything is digitally done or touch screen on this little center screen, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So let's move down. I want to talk about wireless charging. Yes, this does fit an iPhone 13 Max Pro. You can just simply put it here and it will charge. It does stick out a little bit, which kind of screws up the cup holders. And even if I do slide this back, it still has this weird sort of slidey feel. I guess when it was built, it was designed to actually have something smaller than a Pro Max, but it does fit. So that's the key, and it does work even with a case. And some brands don't even work with a case. This one does, so yes, thumbs up. Moving down, you have 2 cup holders, and then the glove box, you have 2 USB-Cs, no USBs, because they've changed that from this year to last year. Also, in terms of starting the car, it isn't a button, it's this little turning thing, which is rather annoying. In front of it, again, you do have, as I mentioned, this crystal glass, which is nice and clean, and it really looks premium, like makes me feel really good. Even the vents, like this vents are money, like a Bentley or something. It's fancy. This dash is really, really premium. Already said that, including this Bowers & Wilkins center speaker right there. It just looks premium, like there should be a clock there. So that's it for initial thoughts. Let's jump into the screen. So this is the screen you get when you start your XC60, and voila, it looks like every other Android tablet you pick up at Best Buy. No different, all your basic features, but it does have Google Maps, which is pretty cool. Now for those that are wondering when is Apple CarPlay coming, well, it depends on when you got your XC60 in 2022. Some of them have them, some of them don't, but it is an update that will come to you if you don't have it already. But your general quick buttons are on the bottom here. So you have this display when I hit this button, then you have your 360 camera. So you have 3 increments of heated steering wheel, 3 increments of heated seats, and 3 increments of ventilated seats. Now this is nice because only a few brands offer you to have ventilated and heating at the same time, which is nice because you get to blow that hot air up your booty. So you have massage seats, which is nice, and you can pick and choose which intensity you want, the speed, and of course the program. Next up is moving to your lumbar on the sides, so your side squeezers, as I like to call them. There's your lumbar, and then your leg extension, again, if you are a tall guy, so I don't use those things. So next up is your HVAC controls, and as you can see, if I want to open up the screen, I have to press in this area, which is a little bit tricky because at the bottom of the screen, and I feel like over time, this screen may flex downward. But anyways, it pops up, and I have main climate, rear, and parking. So if we just focus on main climate for a moment, it has something called Clean Zone, and that is cool because it shows you the air quality in the cabin. So for 2022, Volvo's launched their first air quality system that prevents 95% of all hazardous particles from entering the cabin, and voila, it shows you right there. And moving below, you can see your fan speed and of course your temperature, and because Ian is logged in through Google, he can see his name right there. Pretty cool setup on how it's integrated in the screen, make you feel nice and fancy. Now unfortunately everything is in the screen, so if the screen actually goes down for whatever reason, then nothing really works, which is a bit crazy in today's world, but hey, digital's the way to go, QR code. And next up is settings by hitting this button right here. There are no drive modes in 2022, but you can adjust a few driving features like off-road mode, and of course steering feel firm on or off, and then your air suspension for easy entry and exit just by hitting this button, which is pretty cool because the car does lower. Now this is a pretty noisy air suspension system. We have the Range Rover Velar that also has air suspension, but this thing is pretty noisy if you ask me. The digital drive display is very clean with navigation right in the center in this light, soft blue with your speedometer on the left and the tach on the right. Now the only annoying part I can tell you is that it only has one button and only does one thing. This. Off and on. And the off gives you the number and the on gives you a bunch of dots. Now, if I was selling Volvos, this is how I would approach it. I would have my customers sit in these seats and adjust it perfectly for them. I would have them put both hands on the steering wheel and turn the heated steering wheel all the way up, and then incrementally bring it lower so their hands feel nice and toasty. I would also have them rub this crystal shifter for good luck. And then I would just sit back and relax and hope to God they don't ask me about this screen. And when they do, I would quickly scream, "Dear, dear, dear," and then watch them turn the smooth steering and avoid it, because yes, this screen is tough. So I hope you guys like this video. As always, we've got new merch out, and thanks for subscribing.